We often face difficult challenges in life, including financial ones. At times it seems like there's no way out, no resources to carry out our plans, or simply to meet our daily needs. In these moments of difficulty, the example of the saints can guide us, and today we want to tell you about the life of Saint John Bosco, a man who always trusted in divine providence, even in the most desperate situations. His life is a powerful example of how, by fully entrusting ourselves to Jesus and Mary, we can overcome any obstacle, including financial ones. Saint John Bosco, known for his tireless work for the youth and the founding of the Salesian congregation, faced numerous financial challenges. However, he never allowed the lack of funds to stop him. His faith in divine providence was so strong that miracles frequently occurred in his life, allowing him to carry out great works without worrying about material resources. Whenever he needed money, he turned to prayer, confident that God would provide. And time again, the Lord and Our Lady answered his prayers. In this story, we will explore some lesser-known miracles connected to the financial difficulties faced by Don Bosco. These episodes show us that it is never in vain to turn to the Lord in our needs. If we, like Don Bosco, learned to place our problems in God's hands, we would witness wonders beyond our expectations. In 1858, Don Bosco found himself in a difficult situation. He had accumulated a large debt that needed to be paid by the 20th of the month, but he didn't have a penny. The creditor had been waiting for some time and threatened to act harshly if payment was not made by the due date. Despite these difficulties, Don Bosco did not give in to despair. He decided to fully trust in providence, knowing that the Lord would provide. He called some of his boys and asked them to pray continuously throughout the day. He told them, "Today I need a special grace. I will go to the city, and while I am there, one of you must always be in the church praying." With a heart full of trust, Don Bosco set out into the streets of Turin. As he passed by the Church of the Missionary Fathers on Via Arcivescovado, a stranger approached him. With great courtesy, the man handed him an envelope containing several 1,000 lira banknotes, an enormous sum for that time. Don Bosco, astonished, hesitated to accept the gift. "On what grounds are you offering me this sum?" he asked. The stranger simply replied, "Take it and use it for your boys." Without saying more, the man walked away, and Don Bosco never discovered who the mysterious benefactor was. It was clear that divine providence had heard his prayers. Another significant event occurred when Don Bosco, praying before the Blessed Sacrament with his boys, entrusted his financial problems to Our Lady of Consolation. He had accumulated more debts and did not know how to pay them. But once again, Don Bosco did not lose faith in the Virgin Mary and asked his boys to pray fervently. Shortly afterward, an elegantly dressed man approached Don Bosco. "Are you Don Bosco?" he asked. "Yes, at your service," replied the saint. "My master has asked me to give you this envelope," the man said, handing him enough money to pay off all the debts. Once again, Providence, through the intercession of the Virgin Mary, had performed a miracle. Don Bosco never ceased to remind his boys of the power of prayer and how the Lord always provided for those who trusted in him with faith. In 1848, Pope Pius IX was forced to flee Rome due to revolutionary uprisings and took refuge in Gaeta. The news spread quickly, and support and donations came from all over Italy to help the Pope. Even Don Bosco and his boys wanted to contribute, despite their precarious financial situation. The young people of the Valdocco Oratory made small sacrifices and saved for weeks, eventually collecting 33 lire. Although a modest amount, the sum had great symbolic value, representing the sacrifices of those boys who wanted to show their solidarity with the Holy Father. When the offering reached Pope Pius IX, he was deeply moved. He never forgot this gesture and, years later, sent 720 Blessed Rosary beads to Don Bosco's boys as a sign of gratitude. This episode reminds us that even when we don't have much to offer, the Lord looks at the heart and the sacrifices we make. Small offerings, if given with love and trust, can bear extraordinary fruit. One of Don Bosco's greatest undertakings was the construction of the Basilica of Mary Help of Christians in Turin, a grand project that required vast sums of money. However, Don Bosco decided to start the construction without a penny in his pocket, trusting that the Virgin Mary would provide. When contractor Carlo Buzzetti asked him for a down payment, Don Bosco pulled out his wallet and emptied it into the man's hands. Only a few small coins fell out. Buzzetti, surprised, said, "With this, you want to build a great temple?" Don Bosco, smiling, replied, "Don't worry, the Virgin Mary will see to it that the money comes." From that moment on, numerous blessings were granted to those who contributed to the construction of the basilica. Don Bosco could confidently say, "The Blessed Virgin has built her own house. Every brick in this temple recalls a grace she has granted." This episode shows us how, even in the face of seemingly impossible projects, faith and trust in Providence can provide everything we need. The Basilica of Mary Help of Christians, which still stands tall in Turin today, is a concrete testimony to the power of faith. One last extraordinary event occurred in San Benigno Canavese. Don Bosco was there with his priest friends Don Rua and Don Lazzaro. They urgently needed to pay a sum of 20,000 lire, an enormous amount at the time. As they discussed how to raise the money, Don Bosco took out a sealed envelope that had been given to him, but which he hadn't yet opened. Inside was a letter from a benefactor who wrote that he had 20,000 lire ready to donate to a charitable cause. Don Bosco exclaimed, "These things happen all the time, yet future generations will not believe it and will think them fairy tales." But the miracle was real, once again demonstrating how the Lord promptly responds to those who trust Him with a pure heart. Lastly, we remember the episode when Don Bosco, worried about a debt of 30,000 lire spent on a house in Mati Torinese, was having lunch with Count Colle in Toulon. During the meal, the saint thought about how he would raise the sum to pay off the debt, but did not express his concern. At the end of the meal, the Count handed him a package saying, "This is for your works." When Don Bosco opened the package, he found exactly 30,000 lire, the precise amount he needed. Smiling, he turned to the Count and said, "During the meal, I was thinking about the debt of 30,000 lire. You have been chosen by God as an instrument of His providence." The Count, moved, wept with joy. After hearing these stories, we ask ourselves, are we truly capable of trusting in divine providence as Don Bosco did? In the life of Saint John Bosco, we see how prayer and trust in God can resolve even the gravest financial problems. If we only learned to place our needs in God's hands, we would witness miracles in our daily lives. God never leaves us alone, but He requires our complete trust. Have you ever entrusted your life, your work, or your projects to divine providence? Have you witnessed miracles in ways you never imagined? Write your experiences in the comments and share with us how the Lord has worked in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos and to join our community of faith and prayer. May the light of the Lord illuminate the path for us all.